प्रेजेंटेड बाय ईबिक्स कैश। हर खुशी के लिए काफी है।
Hello and welcome to the Business Today show. I'm Udayan Mukherjee. Well, the pandemic has affected many businesses very badly over the last couple of years. But if there's one industry other than tourism and probably airlines which it has affected really badly, it is the movie exhibition or the multiplex business, because wave after wave of COVID has kept coming and leading to theatres being shut down. And it continues to be the case for many parts of the country as Omicron fleshes out in the third wave. So it's very timely in a sense, and it's very nice to welcome to the show today the owner of India's largest multiplex and movie theatre enterprise, PVR, Ajay Bijli, Chairman and Managing Director of PVR. Ajay, it's wonderful to connect with you after a long time, and thanks very much for joining me today.
Thanks, Udayan, for having me on this show, and great to see you as well after a long time.
How has it been the last couple of years, Ajay? Because, it would have tested your mettle. It would have tested anybody's mettle. But, you are in the thick of it. With the movie theatre business. First the first wave, then when things were settling down, that brutal second wave, and now Omicron. At any point over the last couple of years, have you felt disheartened? Sort of losing hope or being racked by self-doubt about whether you're in the right business? And because it must have required tons of optimism to keep going.
Yeah, I think it's been a long journey, to be honest with you. And initially, it was like a coup de grace, like a blow in the stomach to begin with, because that initially it really, it hit us quite badly. But then obviously, after some time, you start realizing that you're not the only one who's affected. Your heart goes out to people who are much worse off than you. People were losing their loved ones. They were, health issues were there all over. It was something that hit not just us individually, it hit the whole world. So I think it took time, but very quickly I came to this realization that there's nothing that we can do about it. And therefore we have to live through this. And our industry is such that has congregation of people, and people congregation is what is leading to this spread of this virus. Therefore, we have to reconcile to the fact that we are going to be soft targets. We are going to be shut down till the medical fraternity finds a solution to this problem. I'm talking 2 years ago, and now it's been a long time. And but of course, that's one hat that I had to wear of a normal human being. And the other is, when you look at your business, you suddenly realize that from getting 100 million people to your cinemas, touch wood, doing great numbers, and suddenly as the shutters come down, you're zero straight away. So it does make you introspect and reflect a little bit that should this whole strategy of doing one thing only and trying to do it exceedingly well. At least I was always influenced by people who did one thing and tried to do it very well, whether it's, Starbucks, Howard Schultz, or whether even a cricketer like Sachin Tendulkar or Michael Jordan or anybody. Doing one thing but doing it well is the school of thought that I came from. And I didn't diversify too much, stuck to one thing. So obviously it made me question that, listen, should I have done that? Should I have not looked at other tentacles of the entertainment business and not just stuck to cinema exhibition business? So those self-doubts did appear. But then again, running a company with 15,000 people, you have to keep your chin up and you have to say, okay, fine, here is the situation. Now, what can we do? If the revenues are down to zero as the shutters have come down, what else do we have in our hands? So the only thing was to control our costs. So then we started looking at costs in a very big way and making sure that the ship stayed afloat in these, first wave, then second wave, and then now third wave. So that's what we've been doing. Showed up liquidity as well. Because obviously there's a burn rate when your business is shut, which is much larger than when you're operating. So we had about 50 to 60 crores of burn rate, 70 crores at one time, and therefore we had to shore up liquidity. So then I just became very calm, to be honest with you. If anybody can come wiser out of this, you feel very good about it. So I said, the CEO that comes out of this pandemic has to be somebody who's a much wiser person than pre-pandemic. So hopefully I've learned few lessons here.
Yeah, as they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But did you follow up on that thought process that putting all your eggs in one basket versus looking at some other kind of businesses? Once things stabilize, would you follow up on that thought, or are you basically a multiplex man and you don't want distractions in your business life?
Much as I'm very optimistic about the multiplex business still, because I think all the noise of the in-home activity got accentuated because obviously people are not going out. Then obviously they like to entertain themselves at home. That got accentuated a lot, of course, rightfully so. But I still believe in going out, and much as I believe in the multiplex business, especially in a country like India, I still feel that maybe some diversification is important, and there are so many things that one can do, which is to expand on the PVR brand equity that we've got with the customers, with the grace of God, with the financial institution. We are a listed company with the markets and investors, and of course with the film fraternity as well. So there's a lot of things. So we've been brainstorming on that. But the trouble has been the moment we think of diversifying, we have to first take care of our core business. So diversification and creative thinking, innovative thinking can only happen when your mind is slightly relaxed. But when you've got a fire hose in your hand and you're trying to make sure that your main core business stays afloat, then that's the time it's difficult to do creative thinking at the same time. But the notes have been jotted down. The core team ideas have been done. But now we need to look at, once business normalizes, definitely we'll be looking at some diversification.
You have whetted my appetite, Ajay, and I'm going to press you a little bit more on that before we come back to the movie business. What are the top two jottings on that notepad, creative notepad? I mean, what areas are you thinking along to extend the PVR brand name? Where even if you have not taken the first step yet.
I'm glad I'm not talking to you as a news channel where, anything that I say can take the stock price up or down. But I think content is one thing that I was very scared of earlier. 2007, I burned my fingers as well. I did well with some movies, then overall I lost. I think risk of content has got, I think, much lesser now, because even if you make a film and theatrically, although I'm a theater person, theatrically, if it doesn't do well, you've got lots of people, about 40 odd OTT players who are there, who are looking for fresh content. So I think content is something which comes very easy, which can come. I'm not saying it's an easy business at all. I don't want the producers who are listening to this start laughing their heads off that why is Ajay thinking it's an easy business. But I do believe that because of the inroads that we've got into the film fraternity, relationships that we built over the last 32 years in this business, having an understanding of how budgets play a very important role, and having an understanding of what works in a cinema and it doesn't work in a cinema, and having these lots of people who can buy your content today and consumers who are ready to consume content like never before. I think this is one low-hanging fruit, I think, which one can look at. And so this comes very naturally. The other idea is on F&B. I think if you look at our revenues pre-pandemic, just 3,500-4,000 crores was our revenue, out of which about 1,200 crores roughly was F&B. So I think F&B is something that it can happen in the boxes that we create as well, because already we get 100 million people coming. We have a captive audience. There again, some pre-ticketed areas can be carved out. And again, lots of companies internationally have done that successfully. Plus, you can look at a commissary type of network around our cinemas, where even if the shutters are down in the malls and shopping centers, we're still able to deliver food. I know F&B is, again, a tricky business, but I think there are certain proprietary items which can go with the food business is something that we're looking at. We also believe the brand can do management contracts where your investment in intellectual property can give you returns. We have the wherewithal for several years of how to manage cinemas, run cinemas. So we can look at an asset-light model as well, which is what hotels have done all over for ages, and so many QSR companies have done for a very long time, where you don't have to always necessarily invest your own money to get ROIs. In fact, your ROIs improve dramatically. If you look at Indra Nui's new book, where she branched off the entire Yum business and said, okay, the franchisee should pay for the fit outs. Something like that is the third idea that we have in mind. And we've already done about 10 cinemas just now, where our capex model is very low.
Okay.
These are
Oh,
some of the
interesting,
ideas.
Ajay.
Udayan.
Those
There
slightly
are more
high
as well.
risk, yeah. Yeah. They're high risk, high return kind of gambits, and we'll track how it plays out. But you alluded to some of these things like being optimistic about going out. So you don't feel that the 2 years of this pandemic, on off kind of situation, may have altered something very fundamental about consumer behavior, that they have been so stung by these episodes, repeated onslaughts, that
Yeah.
fundamentally they would now feel wary of venturing out into theaters, which might have a bearing on how the future of this business shapes up?
You see, you're right. India is a land of contradictions. I mean, whatever is true is also untrue. So what you're saying will also happen, and which is the reason why I get very comfortable in the market that I'm in India, because India is a very disparate market. So there are people, and I talk to people. I'm 55, and I talk to people, my age or even maybe a little older or even a little younger. Some of their habits have changed. They are skeptical about going, but just now the confidence level is also pretty low. But then the moment you talk to youngsters and you see results of a movie like Spider-Man 2, you see Suryavanshi, 83, people say hasn't done well, but it was in a fractured network of cinemas. It still did 102 crores of business. So you see there are a lot of examples. Shang-Chi is there. Scream has come just now. So when you look at the youngsters, they are really keen to go out. I don't use the phrase "dying to go out" anymore. It's a little morbid in the given the current times that we are in. But they're all very eager to go out. Shopping centers, malls, eating out in food courts. We fit into that culture. So because India is a large market, even if I've lost a certain sliver of customer base to people who are saying, I'm going to sit at home, there's another large chunk of people who want to go out. And, we got 1.45 billion tickets were sold pre-pandemic in India. And that's nothing. Even if I have 370 million people in India who can go out and watch movies, they need to see the movie three or 3.5 times a year, which is nothing in a country where 1,200 films come through the system. So India is the only country which is unique. England is also not like that, where you are currently, where 90% of our revenues come from Indian films. So habits will change of some people. I also believe it's going to be temporary change of habit, because people just can't be incarcerated at home. They want to get out. And when I opened cinemas in October after the second wave, I was shocked to see that people were agnostic to the content that was being played. They were just out. They were just so happy. Wow, I'm glad I'm out. And even movies which were okay did very well initially. And so I believe that no structural change is going to happen in the film business. People will still come out, and the human behavior. Film fraternity, sorry, I'm giving a very long answer, has also been very supportive. If you look at Hollywood studios, they were releasing the movies on same day and date. They lost out on a lot of audience. Now they're back to releasing the movies theatrically first, and then they will release it in their own OTT platforms. Even in India, Amir Khan, I'm in touch with all these guys, all waiting for cinemas to open. Shah Rukh's film, Ritik's new film, RRR, which is Rajamouli's very big film coming up. They're all waiting for the cinemas to open, and then they'll release the movies on the big screen.
Yeah.
So I think it's an aberration that we've gone through
Right.
in the last 24 months.
I also want to ask you, Ajay, and this is a very fundamental part of your business also, almost structural in nature, this division between theatres and OTT. I mean, a lot has been said about that. But I want to understand from you, first, what is the breakup between how much revenue a PVR would typically make from top large budget movies like the Shah Rukh Khan's and Amir Khan movies that you spoke about, and the mid budget movies? Because it seems like there is a bit of a shift going on where the larger producers and bigger actors, the big projects, are looking at theatres, but the middle of the line budget theatres are probably looking at OTTs. Could there be a bit of a carving off of that market in that sense between the multiplexes and the OTTs?
I'm a big believer of, by the way, medium and small budget movies. I don't know then how much of a movie buff you are, but if you remember 2 years ago, movies like Badai Ho, Razi, Shubh Mangalam Savdhan, Uri, the Andhadhun, these are the movies that did exceedingly well. So not only I noticed it as a PVR exhibitor, but also the film fraternity realized that you can make a movie for, let's take a number, 10, 15, 20 crores, which doesn't require a big budget. And that can also end up doing 150 crores if you give it a clear theatrical run. So I think that debate is also almost getting over. And the smaller budget movies got sold to OTT platforms during this closure of cinemas because India is a very mom and pop, fragmented film fraternity. It is not like where four studios have got deep pockets and they're making movies. So the holding power of the smaller mom and pop film producers in India is very little. So they immediately sell it off when they get to know that theaters haven't opened. So, but they also believe a lot in the theatrical business. And the monetization journey of any content has been theatrical, 60-65% revenue. Then you go to OTT now. Then you go to satellite, and then you monetize it on other airline and all that. If you actually shrink the windows, or if you bypass anything, actually leaving a lot of money on the table. And it works for everybody. It works for the OTT players as well, because OTT players were actually buying without watching the movie. They were looking at the actor, the producer, the director, and buying. And suddenly they realized nobody saw the movie. So the subscription rates that they thought will increase never increased. So they're also very happy to have the qualitative and the quantitative benchmark being set by the theatrical release. So when we talk to even OTT players, they're very happy to see whether a big Salman movie has really done well or not. Now, if it has not done well, for example, then they can go back to the producer and say, sorry, I can't pay you an arm and a leg. However, if a small Ayushmann Khurrana movie does exceedingly well, so even the producer can say, listen, by the way, my movie did 120 odd crores, and now I want to charge this much. The consumer who didn't see it first time around, he's also very happy. Oh my God, this movie did very well. I missed it theatrically in the first 8-week run. The moment it comes on the OTT platform, he's also very happy. So it's no longer a binary discussion, according to me. It is not either or. It is it is coexistence of both the platforms. A great monetization journey, normal monetization journey, is theatrical, OTT, satellite, and then the other revenues. So I think water will find its own level. This journey will come back again the moment we are back into normalcy. To be honest with you, this dystopian world has to go away, and then we'll be okay.
Tell me about, I mean, you've given me a wonderful answer about how how the theatre and the OTT markets will find their own levels and places. But how's the pipeline looking for 2022? I mean, the kind of projects that you just spoke about. Once Omicron vanishes, do you have a really strong lineup which will actually see first theatrical releases and then go on to the OTTs? I mean, can you reel off some names? I mean, just to demonstrate the point that, or buttress the point that you just made.
Of course. Well, there's a big movie called RRR, which I said, and I'm a big fan of Rajamouli. He made Bahubali. Just to you must be knowing already. I'm just saying it, and he in fact said that please don't use the word regional movies anymore, because I don't make regional movies. Otherwise, that movie wouldn't have done 1,000 crores. So he does them. So I like the way the regional guys are thinking like an Indian. They're making Indian films that resonate with everybody. So RR is a big one coming up. Lal Singh Chadda is Amir Khan's movie. There's a movie called Brahmastra, which is Ranbir. Then there's a movie called Pathan of Shah Rukh Khan. Then English movies, as you know, Batman is a big one which is coming up. Why I'm naming some of these big tentpole movies which are Marvel, DC, because they play like Hindi movies. Spider-Man 2 has already proved that. Then again, 2 films of Tom Cruise are coming, which are Mission Impossible and the Top Gun film. There's again Sanjay Leela Bhansali's new movie Gangubai is coming. Akshay makes a movie every quarter. So he's very good for my quarterly results. And his movie called Bhool Bhulaiya 2 is coming. Death on the Nile is coming. Plenty of films. And why I've named about 16, 18 films is because all these movies end up doing 2.5 to 3 weeks. If they do that much, about 40 odd weeks are taken care of anyway in a year. So that's what
okay,
makes
let me ask you
confident.
about something which is not very big today, but it's very big as a segment globally, which is gaming. Now, I think you're experimenting with some kind of gaming displays. Do you see that being the possibility of that being something huge in the future, or is it only
I,
going to be peripheral and marginal for at least the next year or two?
That's big. That's big. And to be honest with you, when you ask me about those ideas that we've got, that's very much one of them. That how do we, again, not saying this because I'm underconfident about the cinema business or exhibition business. I think it's just wiser to not have only movies as the only content that you should be playing, and it's wiser not just creating your theaters only for one purpose. They should be multi-purpose in nature. You should be able to encourage gaming. You should be able to encourage live acts, small theatrical plays which don't require, it doesn't have to be Lion King. You should have stand-up comedy. So many things. You should be. It's incremental. Very little capex needed to create a green room and some little peripheral contraptions, and your theaters can become multi-purpose. I think that's something that one should do incrementally, and I think gaming is going to be huge, and we should not be ignoring that content coming on the big screen. Even TV shows. We tried to experiment with Game of Thrones 2 years ago. Their last season, first episode, and their last episode of the last season. I think even some of the Amazons of the world and Netflixes of the world are saying that I can now create content that also plays theatrically, because that again, monetizes their content, and it doesn't have to cannibalize what's happening to their subscription targets. So I think these are the things that we should be doing.
What are the competitive dynamics of your business, Ajay? Because as far as one can see, it looks like almost a perfect duopoly. There's multiplex business in India between you and Inox. You've pretty much carved it out between yourself. But now we hear that the Kanakias are coming back into the play. Do you worry that competitive dynamics might get more intense at some point in the future, or do you see it basically lasting as a duopoly?
No, I think there's more competition than just us and Inox. There is Cinepolis, there is Kanakias. You're very well informed, by the way. Kanakias just announced. There is Mirage, and then there are single screen operators who wanted to upgrade. But I think the headroom for growth is so much. We're only about 7,500 odd thousand screens, out of which 3,000 are multiplexes, 4,500, 5,000 roughly are single screens. Why I'm giving you an approximate number of single screens is because a lot have closed down, unfortunately, in the pandemic as well. And the headroom is a lot. India can still take about 20,000, 30,000 odd screens. It's a large country. If you look at the US, UK, there are multiple players: Regal, AMC, Carmike, Cinemark. In England, you have Cineworld, View, Everyman, so many cinemas, Curzon. So I think having two players in a country like India, 2, 3, 4 players is not too much. So we shouldn't be, what one should be worried about is the proliferation of malls, shopping centers, organized retail, land banks available for growth rather than the number of players. Other avenues of competition, people staying at home or out of home, other entertainment, those are bigger issues. But luckily, India, the only out-of-home entertainment is cricket. You don't have the kind of sporting activities or shows, concerts and so many things that happen in the US. Theme parks don't do very well in India. So luckily, that way we are pretty insulated from all that. So movie going, out-of-home movie going is still pretty much untapped.
Any personal ambitions, Ajay, to do with the movie business? Because you've always been in this world which is sort of overlapping creativity and the celebrity world. Ever been tempted to try your own hand? I mean, I'm not talking about PVR aspirations now. Personally, have you ever tried thinking about directing something? Maybe even trying your hand at acting? Any personal ambitions there?
Well, at the moment, while talking to you, first of all, I'm not acting. I must qualify that, huh? No.
I hope not.
Not at all, because although it looks like a fine line divides all these activities, but I think there's a specialist view, specialist core competence you need to do various things. So to be honest with you, I'm always dreaming, sleeping, legroom and seat width, the size of the screen, the good sound, the consumer experience, because I think we have to become experiential. So I think whatever little I've learned, I opened my first cinema, in fact, exactly 32 years ago in January 1990. and my mind doesn't work beyond that. But as far as production is concerned, without being trying to be a director, I think production is something that you can do. So, I read that Bob Iger's book. He didn't have to have all the competence. I mean, you must have read that book, Ride of a Lifetime, which I think is just fascinating. First of all, it's only 300 pages. I love books which are that, so there's no repetition. And how, without having the core competence to do so many things, he was able to. I think that's what I feel is something that my job should be, rather than getting involved myself into thinking that I'm cat's whiskers in every little, value chain of the entertainment piece.
One last question, Ajay, and it's the most difficult one. Having shown so many hundreds of films over the years, if I pressed you to say, if there's one movie that you would want to put your feet up in the best PVR theater you have and watch, what would that be? An all-time favorite, just one.
Uh, you're right. It's an unfair question because there's so many good movies out there. But in the pandemic, I watched
I
Gladiator
know.
once again, and I really enjoyed that
Okay.
for various reasons. I thought Ridley Scott did a great job, and that without trying to be too philosophical, that whole line about what you do in life echoes till eternity really stayed with me. So that's a movie meant for the big screen, and it was just incredible.
It is. There's no fun watching Gladiator on a small screen at home. No OTT can ever match that experience on that huge Dolby sound. Yeah, that's a good theater choice, Ajay. It was good talking to you, and these bad times will pass, and people will go out once again. So you keep your chin up through these bad times, as you have over the last couple of years. And it's good to see you exuding so much confidence about the future. Thank you very much, and great talking to you today.
Thanks, Udayan. Thank you for having me. Thanks a lot.